And welcome everyone to another Smart Money Circle episode. I'm Adam SArhan. With me today is Douglas Yones, who's the CEO of Direxion ETFs with approximately 50 billion in assets under management. Doug, thank you so much for taking the time and welcome to the Smart Money Circle.
I'm excited to be here. Big fan. It's pretty exciting to kind of stand up amongst some of your other guests, so it feels great.
Thank you so much, Doug, for being here. I always like to begin. Can you please tell us your story and how you got to where you are today?
Yeah, I mean, that's an interesting question. You never know where to start, right? It's like, do I start with my little league baseball or where do we begin? But probably, for most folks who are out there, you're interested in finance, you're thinking about either your careers or how does somebody be fortunate enough to end up in a seat that I'm in where, I'm part of and helping run one of the greatest ETF firms in the world. I would probably start right out of college or maybe at the end of college. A lot of young people they go to university today. They learn a lot more about the markets and about finance than I did when I was coming out of school. And as much as I had a great education, I remember I'd already locked up my first job. I was going to be a stockbroker. And I remember walking down the streets right off of campus. I went to Penn State for my undergrad and I saw a brokerage firm. I don't remember which one. And I thought to myself, I don't even know how to buy a stock right now. And yet I'm going to be a stockbroker, which shows you a lot about the world when I was exiting college. Trading was not online. There were no apps. It wasn't easy. You really had to try hard to learn about the markets and learn about investing. And that was really exciting to me. It was a challenge. It was something that you were trying to focus on and extract and meet with people and earn and read books and learn. So I started out just like that. Old school. I worked 6 days a week. Five of those six, we would leave for a dinner break and come back and get on the phones. We were cold calling. We were trying to find investors who might be interested in learning about stocks, about bonds, et cetera. I did that for about a year. Along that year, I met a lot of really amazing people. There were some of the best salespeople ever. It wasn't quite Boiler Room or Wolf of Wall Street, but I did come across some of these just amazing salesmen and saleswomen that were really inspiring, and they were talking about some really deep, interesting financial concepts. So much so that I didn't understand what they were talking about, and so I went to my boss at the time, and I said, I think I need to go back to school. I think I need to do some part-time learning, maybe get some other education, and my boss's response wasn't a great one. He was like, "Listen, just get back on the phones and just go sell."
Right, right.
And I was learning to sell. I was good at selling, but it wasn't the answer that I think I wanted to hear at that point in my life. And I hopefully anyone listening in, if you're in the same spot, when you get that feeling. And so it took a lot, but I left that job without really any prospects in hand, and a friend of mine had sort of coaxed me into leaving, joining him on a road trip. We actually went on a road trip to the United States. I had no job. We did that for a while, almost 3 months. And what was interesting is I kept meeting people in all these towns across America who were so friendly, so nice, and kept offering advice. There were people maybe my age. And a lot of them were in the investments, registered investment advisors, independents, and they kept convincing me, you got to go back to school. You got to learn more. You got to learn more. So when I got home, I knew that I had that in mind. And a friend of mine had been working at Vanguard, called me up and said, "Hey, you probably need a job. We're hiring. Do you want a job?" Yes, I want a job. And so I started Vanguard, literally just taking phone calls. We were a call center. But it was a great place, and Vanguard allowed you to go back to school. They would help pay for your MBA. So I started my MBA with Villanova. As I was working through that, I got really interested in investing. I started down the road of the CFP. Back in that day, you had to take 5 classes, finish them, and you could sit for the CFP. But if you took 10 classes, you could do the Chartered Financial Consultant designation. In my young mind, 10 is better than 5. So I went out, I got my chartered financial designation, chartered financial consultant designation through the American College, which was phenomenal. And I felt like I really, really increased my education. And all along the way, I was working at Vanguard and sort of raising my hand for new jobs. And I kept working through the brokerage industry. We went self-clearing. I got involved in market making. I got involved as the internet started taking off. How do we route orders? How do we take orders? UI design, really anything I could get my hands on. One of the lessons, and I know your guests have talked about it in the past, I hope I will too. One of the lessons I learned throughout that time period is I just kept raising my hand. Is anyone interested in getting involved here? Yes, I'll do it. Is anyone willing to do this work that maybe someone else doesn't want to do? Yes, I'll do it. And by doing so, I kept meeting really important figures above me a couple of levels up and getting to work on projects that other people didn't get to work on. And so ETFs started really taking off. And Vanguard at that time put a project team together and said, hey, we want to launch our first ETF. We did that in 2001. None of us worked on ETFs full time. None of us really knew or thought ETFs would turn into anything, but we were on this project team and we were figuring it out. And so we launched VTI, which is now one of the biggest ETFs in the world. I promise you, no one on that team thought it would be this big or this successful, because after we launched it, we all went back to our day jobs and, just kept working. And it wasn't until a number of years later that ETFs really started taking off, and I started having some conversations and overviews, and just made up the decision one day, which maybe we get into, maybe we don't, but literally on a walk with my wife after work, about, I think I want to change my career. And instead of being known for heading up brokerage services in a really large division of the company, I'm going to go be an individual contributor. I'll have no one working for me. I think at that point, by the way, I had between a direct and indirect people over 100 individuals working for me. It was a good job. Uh, and I'm just going to not do that anymore. I'm going to go do ETFs and join this group of entrepreneurs. I'll have no one working for me, and we're just going to go figure it out. And I did that in 2008 full time, and I joined an amazing group of people. They're all everywhere now in the ETF industry. And that was it. Went on a bit of a tear. We were launching ETFs as quickly as we could here in the United States. Again, something came up where they said, does anyone want to go work on our UCITS lineup and figure out our launch of ETFs in Europe? I raised my hand. I'll absolutely do that. I was working on that. Does anyone want to help us in Canada? Yes, I will do that. I ultimately helped the project team launch the first ETFs for Vanguard in Canada, the first UCITS lineup in Europe. I was scheduled to go live and work in Europe, and then the board of directors at Vanguard decided, let's go to Asia. And, again, hopefully we'll get into this in some of the later conversation. The work I did and the way I did it, I think just put my name in a hat. And somebody reached out to me, a good friend of mine in the company, and said, what are your thoughts about moving out to Hong Kong? And we got there. My wife, my son, my daughter, we all moved out to Hong Kong. My kids were little, and we got the opportunity to live there for a number of years, and ultimately launching ETFs in Hong Kong, and then helping ETFs get launched in Australia. So, somewhat random, but working backwards, I ended up building this really long career at Vanguard, 17 and a half years, building ETFs in just about every domicile. We were cross-listing through Latin America. And then lo and behold, ETFs really started taking off from a trading point of view. Up until that point, they just weren't that big. But while I was in Asia, a lot of things were happening at the New York Stock Exchange. And all of a sudden, ICE, which is a very entrepreneurial company, had taken over the New York Stock Exchange. If you know some history there, Jeff Sprecher and his team, they're amazing entrepreneurs. They move really fast. They had hired some great people. And I got back to the United States, and I started having some conversations there. And they said, ETFs were becoming a bigger and bigger portion of trading. What could that business look like if we thought about it a different way? And so I ended up having a lot of dialogue with the team there. Tom Farley was the president, almost pitched them on what the business model could look like. They took a chance with me, and I ended up being at the New York Stock Exchange 9 years with an amazing group of people. We really built it out. Boy, we launched over 2,000 ETFs in total there. The team that's still there, I mean, they're the best of the best. And while we were there, we got involved in a lot of other things. We got into social media. You don't think about New York Stock Exchange as social media. It's become social media. We were running podcasts. We were running television shows. We had over 4 million people following us on social media. So I really excitedly got my hands into a lot of parts of the world and the market I never thought about in terms of marketing, building websites. We ended up building ETF Central. For those of you that are using etfcentral.com, that came from a coffee meeting where this amazing gentleman, he's unfortunately no longer with us, this amazing gentleman, John Renee, he was the biggest personality you can imagine. He and I were having coffee, and we just started chatting. What are the biggest problems in the world, and how, if we could fix them, how would we fix them? and both of us were invested in education in different ways. He was worried about education at the advisor level. I was worried at the retail level. We both were touching ETFs, and we said, there's no one website that's built to just educate people for ETFs where you're not trying to make money. You're not trying to do something. You're not trying to what if we build a place where someone could go and learn about every single ETF for free? And we'll put all the data there and all the packaging. And so that's how ETF Central was born. It was literally a coffee conversation. When I last was involved there, which I miss, boy, they were getting something like 300,000 unique IP hits per day or something like the numbers were off the charts. It's still growing, and it's where I go. It's so if you're looking for free ETF education, you can find every single US listed ETF there. There's podcasts, there's videos, etc. So it's a really proud moment for me. But at any rate, along the way, I got to know a lot of ETF issuers, pretty much every ETF issuer here in the United States, a lot that were coming in. I probably personally helped over 100 ETF issuers come to market. And one of my great clients and close friends was Direxion, Rafferty Asset Management, the lineup of Direxion ETFs, who've always been super entrepreneurial, really forward thinking about the markets and growing dramatically. You can look at the chart. And so the team here had nicely asked if I would come join, take over as CEO and help us grow. And growth can mean a lot of different things. It can mean growing the website, our education. It can mean growing our product set. We're launching a lot of products, growing internationally, which hopefully I bring a lot of that to the table. And growing the team. We've got amazing people who've been here a long time. There's a reason we don't have a lot of turnover. The individuals that work at Direxion ETFs are amongst the smartest and fun-loving and lean into leaders that I've been around. And we like that. We want to continue that. We want to attract new leadership. And so on a daily basis, I get to work with some great people. And yeah, hopefully that's a little bit of the journey as to how I'm fortunate enough to work where I am.
I love that. What a great story, and what a great way of raising your hand and saying, "How can I help? How can I help? And wherever you have to go, Asia, Europe, it doesn't matter, back to New York." I love that story. And then looking to add value with ETF Central first, and then everything else comes and the business comes second. So that's it's a recurring theme that I've noticed from successful people. It's giving value, helping others, living is giving, like they say. So let's talk about your business. Doug, please let us know what you do for the audience. Let's educate them a little bit. Tell us your competitive advantages and anywhere you want to go, please.
Yeah, sure. I mean, look, thankfully, we don't have to talk about what's an ETF anymore. I remember that. In fact, there was a funny point in time where I think it was T-Mobile was running campaigns of no early transaction fees. They would buy you out of your like Verizon mobile plan, and it was no ETFs, no early transaction fees. And then I remember people coming up to me, friends or extended family. Do you do something with cell phones? What do you do
Right,
for a living?
right.
So we don't have to explain that anymore. So Direction's a really unique and business in the world of ETFs. We're somewhat of a niche player. We tend to focus on leverage, inverse vehicles, daily resets. We have 107 ETFs when this is, but today I say while recording because we have a pretty significant pipeline in works, about 50 billion in asset management. There's a lot of moving parts in here. First and foremost, when you think about leverage and you think about these types of vehicles, they're not for everyone. I think that's first and most important. You might be listening in and you're thinking to yourself, oh, maybe I don't know about Direxion ETFs. Don't go buy one, please. Don't go invest in Direxion ETFs until you first go to direxion.com and learn about them. If you don't know what leverage is with a daily reset, then you can't buy these ETFs. They're not for you. Yes, we have a couple of ETFs in our lineup like QQQE. If you want NASDAQ 100 equal weight, fine. That doesn't have leverage in it. That's great. We have a commodities ETF COM. That's a commodity strategy. Before you buy anything, though, in life, I think you should probably take the first step and learn about them. So before you go buy our ETFs, go learn about them. If you don't understand how leverage works, the simple example, if you buy something with 3x and that index or that single stock moves up 1% and you bought the bull, you're going up 3%. But guess what? If it goes down 1%, you're going down 3%. And that leverage resets every day. So you can get excited about, oh, the upside looks great. You need to be just as excited as, oh, the downside looks terrible. And so that's why I say these ETFs are not for everyone. They're for people who want active traders, people who want to look at their portfolio, not just daily, sometimes intraday. The individuals that are trading our ETFs, they're built for this. That this is not your grandparents' ETF. So that's why I say don't go buy them without learning. But we've got great educational resources. You can go to direxion.com, go to our university, take an hour of your time. You can learn, it's free. And then you can decide, is this for me? Is this not for me? The reality is we're seeing more and more investors just take a very small sleeve and actively trade the market. And in these types of markets, I've said for a long time, 2025 is direction weather. When the markets are bouncing the way they are, short-term traders are enjoying these types of markets because you can make a short-term bet and say, hey, I think it'll go up or I think it'll go down, and you can use a bull ETF or you can use a bear ETF because we offer both sides of that. And some of our more popular ones, the semiconductors, no shock there. S&P 500, no surprise. We've got a very, very popular products that trade 20-year treasury, small cap ETFs. And then the interesting thing in our lineup is we've been building more and more of what we call single stock ETFs. So if you want to take a short-term investment on Tesla or Nvidia or any of the Mag 7 stocks, those tend to be our more popular ones, you can buy 2x leverage up or 1x down. Some of the more popular ones are the high velocity, right? High vol types of ETFs. You also have Berkshire Hathaway. That's an interesting one for us. People have been kind of interested in the whole Berkshire and Warren Buffett story, and so we offer 2x bull and 1x bear on Berkshire Hathaway. But that's been a pretty interesting lineup. We have about $4 billion now invested there. But I'll end my sort of business discussion where I started. If you don't know how these work, please don't buy them. Maybe I'm the only asset manager to ever come on the show and tell you not to buy my investments, but it's really, really important. They're not, other than, like I said, QQQE, and we have HCMT is an interesting one. We have 3 ETFs that are non-levered. Fine. You can go learn about them and you can set it and forget it with that in your portfolio. The rest of them are literally, if you don't want to look at your portfolio every single day, then don't buy the Direxion lineup of ETFs.
Yeah, actually, so a few things. What you're saying is not to buy them. You're just saying do your due diligence and think that is prudent for any investment. So I think that's really an important point. The second thing about leverage, I had one of the founders of long-term capital management on the show a few months ago. And as you were speaking, Doug, he said the same thing with leverage could work for you or against you. So if the audience doesn't know, long-term capital management back in 1998 was a big hedge fund. It failed. The Fed had to step in and save it, all that kind of fun stuff. So it was a big thing. So what he said was if you know the stock market's going to go up, let's say 10% over the next 100 years, you go back 100 years ago, you put all your money in there, great, you're going to do well. But if you use leverage, let's say you 5x that investment, you're going to go bankrupt several times along the way, even though the
Yes.
market went up 100%. So he goes 1987 when the Dow fell 20% over 22%, whatever it was, in one day, your 5x leverage would have wiped you out. So, not to mention 2008, not to mention whatever it is. So, that goes back to your point about no leverage. It can work for you, but it can also work against you. So, I think you're telling people just get educated. It's a
Yeah,
very good tool if it's
that's
used
right. And
effectively.
the
Yeah.
and the education's there, right? It's not the old days. You got to go get a book at a library or go buy one. You just go to direction.com, go to university, done. You can learn. It's like an hour and a half. You'll have a really good handle. Can you go longer? Of course. If you have more questions, can you reach out to us? Of course, we're here for you. But an hour will tell you, is this right for me or is this wrong for me? And if it's wrong for you, then please don't buy any leverage ETFs.
Absolutely. All right. And the same for any product for that matter. If it's wrong for you,
Yes.
don't do it. It's just that simple.
Just
All
don't
right.
do
Let's
it.
talk about, yeah, for sure. So let's talk about risk management, Doug. How do you handle risk and what are some mistakes you see people make with respect to risk management? I'm curious if you want to talk about business, you want to talk about investing, anywhere you want to go, please.
Yeah, it's interesting. First and foremost, let's talk about risk for a second, and then I think we should come back to the fact that a lot of times people say risk and they actually mean stress. And that's really important. And I found that as a business leader that you actually want to diagnose when somebody says to you, "Hey, we've got this risk," or "I'm worried about this risk," backing up into that of "tell me more," asking the type of leading questions that'll get it out. First and foremost, look, risk is everywhere. When we wake up in the morning, we go to work, there's risk. You cannot and don't want to live a life where you have zero risk. It's probably not possible, and it probably means you're staying at home and then living in a bubble, right? That you're not living a fun, exciting life. So risk is there. Okay, so then once there's risk is in the system, whether it's in our home life, in work, you need to build risk factors, risk tolerances, and risk warnings. And those are a little bit buzzword like, but they can mean a lot of things. Sometimes, in my mind, I like to think of risk as like these little red flags, the warnings, the little voice inside your head that says, "Hey, hold on a second here." And I've had that come to me in both leaders that I've respected and have talked to me a lot about it, where they say, hey, look, put risk controls in place in your business where if X happens, then you get an alert. And that could just mean if something moves a certain amount of distance, you get an email that says you need to look at this, right? Those are risk controls. Those are in place. The other spot that's really important is from people. And I say that because usually if you're running a business, the people who are the closest to risk that could really blow you up, that could really be a problem, are your frontline workers. They're the ones that are either facing off directly with a system, with the trading, with your customer, right? They're really at the front line. The worst thing you can ever develop as a leader is people afraid to tell you the bad news. And I would say it again because it's that important. The worst thing you can ever do as a leader is having someone afraid to tell you bad news. By the way, when you're a parent, you're also a leader. The worst thing you can do as a parent is having a child that is afraid to tell you the bad news. So this goes for everything in life. Build those relationships. How do you build them? It means on a daily basis, when someone reports bad news, it's not their fault. Welcome it, thank them, and then work together to try and solve it. When you are doing that on a consistent, regular basis, you will create a landscape of trust. The goal is to build a business of trust. Leaders can come in and say, I've got a problem, so that they need help from other leaders, because that's usually how it works. Also, then it means all the way down your organization, no one ever gets in trouble for having a problem, which means they don't get in trouble for reporting it, which then it starts to push risk management all the way down through your organization to individuals. You want them empowered to say, hold on, something's going on here, and I either need to raise my hand, create a pathway for them to raise their hand, whether it's their they can just go right to their boss, come to you, try and create that open dialogue. I recognize it's hard as you get into bigger and bigger organizations, more and more employees. You can have something as simple as a little box with a little note card. That's what we had at one point in a large business I had. They could just submit a concern, whatever it was. Sometimes you get little things you can actually fix that become big things. Where somebody might, as an employee, might have a good idea for you as a leader. Other times you can find it, and I take this out into regular life. I really mean it. I'm a parent of teenagers. Um, I want them coming to me first if they're concerned about something. Hey, I'm going to, the best thing you can ever have, and this is the things that my friends and I and my stage of life are tackling, is having a teenager come to you and say, "Hey, I'm going to an event, a party, a thing, and I'm a little worried about this," and you giving them the suggestions, the advice, the knowledge you've learned on how they can tackle that in advance. When we were 17, we probably weren't making the best decisions of our life because we didn't have all the mistakes that we've had a chance to make for the next decades of our life. So all the ability to open up that dialogue with your child, someone else's child, to say, hey, here's a suggestion for you if you get into this event, and knowing that they can do that. And, that's really important. It's the same thing in business. It's the same thing all around us. So I tend to think about that. I also read a lot. Um, if I see what went wrong with a company, reporters like to report on like the big clickbait headlines. That's fine. I want to go deeper. I want to understand, okay, that happened. That's fine. That's clickbait. How did it happen? What were the mistakes or the opportunities, the emergencies that was there a failure to plan? And can I learn from that? So I like learning from that. You can find it in a lot of different ways. Harvard Business Review tends to dig deep on those types of learning lessons. There's good books out there. I try and read as many as I can and think of that. And then I like to engage in different levels. Call them what you will. At the highest level, you can call them a tabletop exercise. That's something that we'll go through here at least 1 to 2 times this year. We get in a room as a leader, and you scenario plan in advance, and you surprise your leaders, you surprise people. Hey, you got to the building today, it's on fire. What's the plan? You don't want to make that plan up when the building's on fire. right? We've learned that as individuals, we've learned that as leaders. By the way, do that at home with your kids. Hey, kids, you get home and this is going on in the house. What's your plan? What's our meeting point if we all had to run out of the house? We're all away from each other. We can't get in touch with each other. There's an emergency. What's our plan? Those are conversations you want to have in advance. Yes, you will be the annoying dad. If you ask my kids, they go crazy. It's dinner time. They're like, up, here comes the calendar. I'll take out a calendar. Oh, they go crazy. They make fun of me. But I can sleep well at night because I know we've got a plan. You want to do that at every stage, and that's really good. And then the final thing that I'll kind of come back to, which is don't mistake risk for stress. They're
Hmm.
not one and the same. Sometimes it's stress in the system that's coming out as we have a risk here. And that's where you want to have a really open dialogue. Don't jump to the conclusions. Okay, help me understand what you're saying where there's risk. Sometimes it's your capacity utilization is too high, meaning people can't get enough done with their man hours or they need a new system. And they're saying there's risk here, but it's really just stress to the system. There's too much work for an individual. A person is too stressed out. A system is too stressed out. And that's really important. And that was something someone told me a long time ago that I actually will ask myself when people are bringing up risks. Sometimes they're just stresses to the system. And those are usually, I don't know, a little bit easier fixed. And so I don't know. It was a good statement that was said to me a really long time ago. The other one, because I know you look for this and your listeners do too, that was just unbelievably invaluable advice to me is someone early on said to me, when you're being pressured to make a decision as fast as possible, that should be a red flag in your mind that should go off to actually slow you down. And it's really counterintuitive because you will get into these stressful moments in life. Sometimes, like buying a car, right? It's in the dealership's best, it's in their best interest to try and make so many things come at you at once that you just have to make decisions as fast as possible. Hey, when that happens to you, because we all go through it, you'll say, "Oh, Doug told me red flag goes off. Hold on, take a moment," because it puts the power back in your hands, especially when you're buying something. The same thing is in life. The same thing is at work. When you feel all of a sudden pressure to make decisions really, really quickly, that should be a red flag going off to actually slow down and take a moment. You will find that a lot of times when you slow down and give yourself a little bit of time, walk away, go for a walk around the block, go to the restroom, go get a coffee, and just take a second and write down what are the decisions I need to make and what are the inputs, what are some pros and cons. You will find you make better decisions that way. And it was just unbelievable advice that I've used throughout my entire life.
Yeah, I absolutely love it. And the differentiation there between risk and stress, I think, is absolutely brilliant because a lot of people don't understand that. And then the ability to slow down instead of just speeding up or getting pressured to rush through it is also really, really good. And also looking at the worst case scenario, like you do with the kids and dinner. And I do the same thing with my kids, by the way. And it's
Yeah.
almost fun
Yeah.
now where it's like, okay, we know the reaction. Like you walk into a crowded theater, yell fire, everyone's gonna run, right? Same thing
Yeah.
with the kids. If you say a certain thing, all right, here's dad again.
Yeah. And by
You
the
know
way,
what's
they
gonna
made
happen.
fun of me and they made fun of me about if there was ever a fire, where do we meet? And use whatever you want. We use the neighbor's mailbox across the street. That's what we've always had. Every house we've lived in. It's always been the same. And it's very funny that one time there was a situation where our neighbors behind us had a shed light on fire. I wasn't home.
Oh wow.
Alarms were going off. And so whatever, there was some communication that got broken throughout between my wife, the kids, there's a fire. And suddenly my wife's like, where are the kids? I'm looking around the house. She's like, oh, they mistook words for fire of there's a house fire. It was the neighbor's thing. And guess what? She found them across the street. So like, guess it does
Wow.
work.
Wow.
I was like, you might not like it, but it worked. We all knew where to find each other. And so, look, it is what it is. These things are coming up more and more. Now we've got AI, deep fake. People can fake phone
Hmm.
calls with voices. That's
Hmm.
real. That's real for you, right? You run a podcast, someone has your voice. They can do a lot of different
Yep.
things.
Right.
Have a code word for your family of if I was really in a problem, I'm going to give you this code word. AI won't know the code word. That's really good, timely advice for the next 10 years of where we're headed. But these things are important. So I like to scenario plan to the annoyance of my family.
No, I couldn't agree more. So okay, because you're doing the right thing, right? And they come around, they all know. So let's talk about timeless lessons. We talked about risk management. Let's talk about timeless lessons that you'd like to share with the audience. in business, life, relationships, anywhere you want to go, please.
Yeah, sure. So I'll give you a few things that I think have changed the scope and course of my life in terms of success. I actually believe that success is a lot of luck. My personal thing is when people tell you they did everything themselves, uh, I don't buy that for a second. You have to be born a little bit lucky, in the right scenario, in the right environment, meeting the right people, but you can create a lot of luck for yourself. You create luck through hard work, through dedication, and through doing the right thing. But doing the right thing when no one's looking is like the best way you can create luck for yourself. And also, as you said, create a giving world. So I'm going to share a bunch of things. I'd love to tell you they were all my idea. I don't think any single one of them is. And I'm okay with that because they help me and they help me become very, very successful. So why not help you with what I happen to be lucky enough to read or learn or what have you? So we'll tear through a few of them. First and foremost, luck is a river, and your goal in life is to not let that river dry up. And so rivers need to be fed with things, right? Tributaries, rain, whatever you want to call it. Rivers can't dry up. If you let the river dry up, your luck dries up. So how do you feed the river? You need to go around and create luck for other people. So find ways to give, whether it's give your time, whether it's donate, whether it's give money, whether it's give advice, help someone, you see someone. The more you do that, I promise you, the world figures it out. There's something out there that it creates the
Magic.
river and it keeps the magic alive. I don't
Yeah.
know how to describe it. When you constantly wake up every day figuring out how you're gonna make the world around you better, your personal world gets better and better and better. It creates luck for you. It's the easiest thing we could all do. I don't know how it works, but it works. If you're listening out there and you're not doing this with your life, what you're doing is you're actually subtracting your luck. If you're grumpy, you're angry, someone bumps into you, you saw an opportunity to pick up a bag for somebody that fell. I promise you, you're going into a negative spiral. You're taking the water out of your own river, and it's making it worse for you. So you just literally wake up every day. That will change your entire life. Okay. That's the basics. That's table stakes for getting to be successful. Now you're at work. What do you do at work to make yourself successful, especially as you're coming up through your career? So here's the first one. Everybody's working on their own things every single day, and they're not thinking about the things you're working on. Even if they know they're important, they're not thinking about it. You need to find a way to put down on paper and demonstrate the things that you're doing that are really important. And you can do it a million different ways. Those ways have changed for me over the years. I wish I started them earlier. I learned it a little later, but that's okay. I've been doing it. The one of the best ones that seems like a starting point that people can wrap their minds around and then change it to make it work for you. Take a PowerPoint, a one pager, and build your life into quadrants. Or if four is too many, fine. But I tend to find most people tend to think in four things. One of those quadrants is tactical. That's like the short term. This is the stuff you're just knocking out every single day, and start filling that in, whatever it is. How often you do things, I don't know. Usually you start at like on a monthly basis. What are the big things that you've tackled that were important to whoever? Might be your boss, your stakeholders, yourself, your business. You've got that quadrant. That's tactical. Okay, now you've got strategic. That's your next bucket. That's your longer term projects, the things that need to get done. There's a million books on this about how we all live in these quadrants. Most of us find ourselves, if you were to map it out, working on the things that are really, really urgent, but also somewhat low importance. That's where we spend most of our time. That ends up being your email box, your text messages, right? But there's that other box that's really, really important, but very, very low urgency. And you have to find a way and force a way to get your life to work on that box. And the beauty of having that box and writing it all down, and I'll explain this, I'm going to give you the answer before I get there, is this document becomes a mirror for yourself and it forces you not to live a lie. So if
Love
you
it.
create your strategic box, you're going to
Love
have
it.
all your big things in there, and that's going to be really important. Okay, those are your like first two. Then the next one becomes your goals. Whatever that goal is. I want to save for a car. I want to get ahead in my job. I want to find a new job. Whatever these things are, I want to learn a new language. You got to put them down into your goals bucket. And then again, remember, this thing has become a mirror. Now, once a month, when you finalize your doc, you've got to force it back on yourself to say, am I actually doing these things? because you're going to find out right away that all those like non-urgent but super important things, you're not working on them. So it'll force you in. And then that fourth quadrant is you. What is your personal self? And figuring out what that is. There's a great book. You don't have to read it. It changed my life, but it's The Eighth Habit by Stephen Covey.
Excellent.
One of the exercises in there, it's not a book, by the way, you can just read because you have to do each chapter and then you come back to it. And it's like a year-long process of whatever you want to call it. One of the chapters in there, he forces you to prioritize your life, and you have to force rank. It's the most difficult thing in the world, but you start force ranking things like, how do you compare your personal health against the happiness of your children, against your success at work, about the money in the bank, the car you drive. You're gonna go through this exercise, and it is very, very difficult. You're not doing it in 1 hour. It's over the course of like a month. But it's a really great exercise. So when you force rank it, and now you have a bucket, and now you have to ask yourself, am I living my life according to my bucket? And probably most of us, the answer is no. And then you have to figure out a way to get your life in prioritization of that bucket. This is the most difficult thing in the world. That's why this book is life changing. If you read it over the course of a year, 2 years, and you do it, it changed my life decades ago. I can't tell you how much it did for me. But at any rate, doing something like this will reprioritize. The book teaches you how to reprioritize. I'll give you one of the tips to convince you, and you'll go, oh, that's actually really good. Now I need to go do it. You're going to find in your top five is your personal health. You're going to find that it ends up, because guess what? If you die, you can't
Game
do all
over.
those other things. You're
Right. Game
done.
over.
Yeah,
Yeah.
game over. So like it automatically, it's in there. So guess what? Most of us skip. Oh, did I get my physical? Did I get my doctor's appointments in? Did I go to the gym? It changes you. So one of the tips he gives you, especially executives, as you move up further in your career, you're really, really busy. He teaches you, he says, hey, go into your calendar, book your doctor's appointment 2 months out, not now, because you have time 2 months out. Find it, book it. You tell, if you have you're lucky enough to have an assistant, you tell your assistant, this meeting can't move. And then when you get hit nonstop, because you will, hey, I need some time. Are you free this morning? You just say the phrase over and over. Oh, I apologize. I have a previous commitment that I can't move. It's you will be shocked in your life when you say, I apologize. I have a previous commitment I can't move. Is this other date available? That people go, oh, okay. You will be shocked by this. But if you build it into your calendar, so guess what? I can tell you, Doug Yones has all of his dentist appointments, his physical, his blood work, his skin checks, you name it. I have it all booked into my calendar. It's blocked and it can't move. And when people hit me, I'm like, I'm sorry, I'm not free that day. I have a commitment. Do that, and you will find. So now you've learned a tip from the book. Go do it, and you will find. And depending on where you are in your career, those four quadrants will be tinier or bigger early in your career. That one quadrant around what you're doing, what you're executing, and the other quadrant around your big projects, those should be the biggest ones. Get them down on paper, clean them up, and now share them with your stakeholders. Let your stakeholders see the things you're doing, what they're doing, because I can't tell you how many jobs are done like this. Hey, I'm in a room. This is a really important thing we're about to do. Do you know anyone who knows how to do this? Or do you know anyone? And Adam goes, oh yeah. What about Jane? She's really good at that. And the reason Adam will know that Jane is awesome at that is because he saw her monthly template and he knows. So share your template with every possible stakeholder, leader. Go set up one-on-one meetings with leaders around your company. Go set up one-on-ones with leaders around the industry. Can I grab a coffee? Can I bend your ear? And when you go set those up, you have an agenda. Hey, I want to learn a little bit about what's going on in your business, and I want to share what I'm doing. And now instead of sharing words that the person will forget, you share this beautiful little menu, one-page PowerPoint. And guess what? No one else in the world does that. So they're blown away by this, and they sit there and they look at it and they bring it back and they think about it. How could I teach my kids to do this? And then when an opportunity pops up behind a closed door, they call you because they know you, or their friend calls them and says, do you know someone? They will call you. You need to create your own luck. And this is the way you do it. Is the best tip that I could possibly give someone. I wish I learned it earlier in life. I wish everyone I told to do it did it. I promise you, if you do this, you will create an unbelievable success.
Doug, I absolutely love it. Like the kids say, let's keep going back to the kids. Fire.
Fire. It's
Yeah,
fire.
just you're
Yes.
on fire. Yeah, this is
Yeah.
awesome.
By the
Okay.
way, by the time this is published and listened to, that'll be like they'll be like, oh my gosh, those guys are so old with their fire.
Yeah, seriously. Okay, absolutely love it. I think it's brilliant. The accountability, the sharing with it, and it's such a great way of prioritizing yourself. And by the way, I talked to some really, really influential people, and like you and others, and I've never once had a person tell me, "Sorry, I can't do it ever," because that one time that I wanted is the only time available in the universe. So every
Yeah.
single time I said I have a commitment, sorry, I can't do it. Can I reschedule? Every single time over decades, every person accommodates. It's okay, sure, no problem.
Yeah. And it's
It's
called different
shocking,
things. They'll call it learn to say no or whatever.
right?
But no, I don't love the word no. Look, I was born and raised a salesperson. No is not, you're not getting a sale with no. And
Exactly.
so I don't say no. Also, you don't want other people to judge your prioritization list. So why let your boss or your boss's boss judge that, hey, I'm not free at 5 p.m. on Wednesday because I want to go to my daughter's recital. I don't want
Exactly.
that judgment call, right? That's
Right.
not on them to make the judgment call. But I have a previous commitment that can't be moved is not a judgment call. They can't judge you. And so
Yep.
you want to take back control, and it's the best. It's such a great tip. It came from that book. Use it, abuse it. It's so good. By the way, now that we're giving tips out, if you're out there, this is really important for your home life with your spouse, right?
Right.
Which is for me, my bucket, because I still do this, guys. Um, I have a bucket in there, which is me and my relationship with my wife, right? My wife is my best friend in life. She's my partner in
Mhm.
life.
Yeah.
So I've got to look at that every month and say, what did I do for her this month? Right? Have I done something nice? Have I done something special? But like, I don't care how long you're married, you're still dating your spouse. What have
Yes.
you done? Or have you, or because you don't do it on purpose, but it's one of those buckets. It's not urgent, but it's really important. And so it helps me make sure I'm maintaining a proper relationship for myself. And I'm telling you, you want to build a life of happiness, and these are the ways you can do it.
No, this is brilliant. Beautiful. Okay, next question for you. The flip side of
Yeah.
that, timeless mistakes. What are some timeless mistakes you've made, you've learned? How do you avoid them? Learn from them anywhere you want to go, please.
Yeah, for sure. You look, I mean, some of the mistakes is just I wish I learned these things earlier, or I wish I did them earlier, or I wish I executed on these things. Um, the thing that I found myself is when I get busy, right? I have to catch myself, and I've taught myself better over the years. But if I go back in time for you, I was pretty young in my career. I was managing a large group of people. I'm running, and my boss's boss at the time was in his office, and I'm walking by. He goes, "Hey, Doug, can you stop in?" Yeah. And he was proud of something, and I don't remember now what it was. He was showing me something he was proud of, and I remember this is how bad it was. I was so busy that I didn't even care that this moment in my life that I'll remember forever. His name's Frank. Maybe he was sharing something about his son, and isn't it terrible? I don't even remember. And he's just like, "You're really distracted. Like, are you? What's going on?" And I was like, "Is
Wow.
something wrong?" And I said, "Oh, I'm just so busy. I'm crazy." He's like, "Well, what are you busy with?" And I was like, "Well, this and this and this." And he goes, "Hey, do me a favor." I said, sure. He says, hey, can you like let's catch up tomorrow. Can you write down all the things you're busy with? Like just put them all down on a piece of paper. And I'm like, oh wow, my boss's boss really wants to see everything I'm working on. This is great. So I wrote it all down, everything that's taking all my time and I'm running. And I go into his office the next day. He's like, oh, great, come on in, sit down. Let's go through your list. You start going through. And he goes, I start reading them and he's like, oh, this is great work, great work. He goes, Doug, quick question for you. Yeah, if we get together next year on this day at this time, which one of the items in this list do you still care about? Oh man,
So
talk about a
powerful.
learning moment, Adam. I
Yeah.
was like,
Floored.
uh, none of them. He's like,
Exactly.
all right, so next time you're running by my office and I grab you, there's nothing on here that could really be all that important, could it? And it was just a wake up call. And he did it in a great way. I'm making it sound like I think slightly more negative. And then he helped coach me around, let's get these things under control and all the reasons why. He was just this amazing leader. Because if you're running around crazy, well, do you think your boss is like, hey, we got this new opportunity. Let's go grab that guy. He seems like he's running around like a mad, chaotic. No, you're not getting the next opportunity. Do you think the people who work for you want to come hang out with you? No, you're in a mad rush. You're in freaking chaos. So the lessons, if I combine that with, I've reported to some amazing people. I've also reported to some of the worst leaders you will ever meet in your entire life. And I meet friends still to this day. It happens to all of us. People get ahead. You don't know why. People are in charge. You don't know why. I meet with a friend. They're like, "Oh, I have the worst boss. He's doing this. She's doing that." Okay, can you please write down everything they do and then ingrain it into your brain to never do that ever for the rest of your life? Because you have the biggest opportunity to learn how to be a great leader. You don't learn how to be a great leader from mimicking people because then you're not genuine. You have to be yourself. You learn how to be a great leader by never doing anything bad leaders do. And so figuring those types of things out, and those were really big lessons for me. But for me, I like to execute. If you look at me in every part of my life, I'm a doer. I have a lot of energy. I wake up really early in the morning. I go to bed. My kids say early, but for me, it's late. I try and get a lot done everywhere all the time. So my risk factor, I know it. My risk factor is seeming too busy for people, for them to open up, for them to have a moment with me, for them to feel comfortable coming to me as a leader and talking to me. So I have to pretend to slow down until I become good at slowing down. So you have to fake it until you make it. And I think that's, everyone's risk point or their Achilles heel will be different. Trying to figure out what that is and then figure out a way to accommodate for that, whether it's people around you, hiring great leaders that aren't like you, whether it's turning around and creating discipline, learn. The other great article I read really early on that I've taken to heart was, and I apologize if you don't play golf, but if you don't play golf, I'll give you the 10-second version. Golf, there's a lot of different clubs and they all do different things. Some of them make the ball go really, really far, but not so accurately. And some, you've all played miniature golf. I don't care who you are, you've played miniature golf. Your little putter is just to tap things in. And the article was all about how leadership is like golf. And so the best leaders carry around a leadership golf bag. They need to know when do they strike hard, when do they tap really, really soft, when do they, do different things. It doesn't have to be a golf club, but that's leadership. You can't be the same thing to everyone. You have to be different people to different people, and you need to be different people at different times to the same person. And the best leaders are the ones that figured out how to do it. I try and hone that skill. I'm not great at it. I reassess every day and I go, oh, that was a mistake. But one of the things that, again, mistakes I didn't do in the past, I would make a mistake and I'd say, oh, I'd learn from it and move on. Now I try, when I make a mistake, I go back to the person and say, hey, Adam, yesterday when you came to me and you were opening up, I was distracted. I made a mistake. I apologize. Would you mind taking another half hour and really taking me through this when I have the right frame of mind? Apologizing to people is powerful. It lets them know you care, you're genuine, and that you're human and you made a mistake, and then you can open up again. And so I do try now, because I still make mistakes, but I do try and go back to people. And I wish I did it earlier and say, I apologize. I was wrong, but help me learn from it and move on. So those are some of the things that I think about.
I love that. Yeah. And actually taking even a step further, when I'm wrong, I'm all wrong a lot. I apologize and even do it to my children. And it blows their
Of
mind, like a
course,
little head emoji. When I'm wrong, hey, I made a mistake. Daddy made a
of
mistake. And
course.
that's okay. And keep moving
It's
forward.
okay.
Yeah.
It's
Yeah.
okay. I had the
Yeah.
same conversation again. The Eighth Habit by Stephen Covey. I give him all the credit because a lot of that's in there. But I have, commitments that I'll make with my kids. And there's been times where I go to them and I ask them to relieve me of the commitment. I talked to you about, oh, I made it sound so easy. You booked this event. Your son has a baseball game. My son's a baseball player. And I committed to him. I'll give you a very recent example. I committed to him. I'm going to be at, as many games, blah, 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 this season. Something came up at work. It's too big. I'm the CEO
Yeah.
of a company. We're a $50
Yeah.
billion asset manager. I need to deal with it. I went to him and I said, hey, in 3 days, you have a baseball team. I told you I was going to be there. I don't think I can be there. How big of a deal is this to you? You need to tell me. Effectively, I was looking for, should I blow up? And I asked him, should I blow up my work calendar? Because I can, but because my prioritization is there on my fourth quadrant, but I don't want to. But I explained to him, and we had a conversation about it. He said, no, absolutely not. I'm reprioritizing for you. That's more important. What a great conversation, and how great can you turn your children into well-balanced, mindful adults than by being honest with them and talking to them, apologizing to them if you make a mistake. I talked to my daughter pretty early on. We were having an argument over something, and I said to her, I'm like, Emily, I've never been a dad before. This is the first time. I really
Right.
don't know what I'm doing here. So if you
Yeah.
could help me through this, and guess what? Can you imagine how disarming that is to a kid who's mad at you when you go, I don't actually know what I'm doing. Can you help me? And then we had a big conversation and we worked it all out.
Yeah.
And so, these are really powerful tools. Again, I wish I read that book a little earlier in life, but you guys can read it now.
Yeah, no, I love that. And also asking for help, even with the spouse, with the wife, with business,
Uh,
anything along those lines. It's a next
it's an
level ninja
Achilles
move.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it's an Achilles heel for me. And
Yeah.
recognizing if you're a person who's not good at asking for help, it's terrible. It's something I work on every day. It's a really good one. That's a great piece of advice.
So, okay, you spoke about leadership. Anything else that you want to share that makes a great leader or lessons about leadership before we move on?
Yeah, one of the things that I learned pretty early on is you need to tell people. I use it as a easy phrase, and then I'm going to back into it. But you need to go tell them. What do I mean by that? You need to tell people. Usually, leaders only tell people when things are bad, right? Adam, I'm mad at you, and here's why.
Right.
First of all, you need to do it timely, but not too timely. So, I remember, there's a lot of things in life that go into leadership, but I remember, being told, hey, your kids play sports. The absolute worst time to give your kids feedback from a game is after the game. You wait until they're calm, rational, distanced from the event, and then they can be objective about it. The same thing goes in life. That's all of us. When we're hot, we don't want to know. So guess what? Somebody's hot, upset, or hot, excited. Your feedback in that moment is not going to be meaningful. It won't be accepted. Even on the positive side, they came off a huge win. They're high fiving everyone. They had a huge sale. Yes, of course, you want to go over and congratulate them too. Guess what? You need to go back 3 days later and tell them, Adam, well done there. I really appreciate it. And don't be indistinct, right? Oh, you did a good job. Good job doesn't mean anything to anyone. Hey, Adam, that was amazing. I really appreciate you. You followed up with that individual over and over. They really got to know you. They saw who you are as a person. Make it individual, make it real. If your leader doesn't naturally do this, that's fine. There's a lot of leaders who don't. Go get an Excel spreadsheet. It's available. Google Docs. Something is on your computer for free. Write
Right.
down everyone who works for you. Put January, February, all the way out through December, and you need to force yourself to check in on your spreadsheet and say, "It's January. Has Adam done something good? Because I haven't mentioned it to him." That's not good leadership. All right. So make sure you're finding the good in people and reminding them because people work really hard. And when it's not noticed, there can be nothing more demotivating for someone that does a really good job and cares a lot. And then their leader or boss doesn't even care. You probably did care. You just probably forgot to mention it in a direct way. So go thank them. And that counts on the other side. If somebody does something that's driving you bananas, let them know early, right? Again, not in the heat of the moment, but later go, hey, did you know that this is causing this concern of mine? I I've found that like 8 times out of 10, it's not nine, but 8 times out of 10, they had no idea. And they're doing it for the wrong thing for the right reasons. And when you go and have a conversation that way, don't wait till the year-end review. There should be no surprises, right? You should be able to have that conversation. So the best leaders are the ones that come in and do those proper check-ins on both the positive and the negative side. There's no one in life who doesn't like to be thanked for a job well done. No one. So go find a way to do it. And that, by the way, that goes for your kids too. That's everyone in life.
Yep.
Thank them we appreciate people for the things they do in the life. Don't forget to thank them. Even if they cleaned up after, I leave a mess sometimes. My wife cleans up after me, letting her know that I appreciate the fact that hey, when I left this morning, I left a big mess. I came home, you cleaned it up. That's really meaningful to me. That it's really important. Don't miss an opportunity to thank people.
Yeah, it's so powerful. And then final question for you. By the way, this is absolutely brilliant. Thank you very much. This is
Yeah.
fantastic.
If my
But
wife's listening, I know I don't do this enough, and I'm working on it. I promise I'm working on it.
what is the best piece of advice you'd like to give the audience or your 30-year-old self?
Yeah. I mean, look, this is an investment show. What's the Chinese proverb? The best time to plant a tree is today, or was 20 years ago, or whatever. The second best time's today. Um, that's real, right? And that's real with investing. The richest people in the world are rich because they invested early. The time value of money, the compounding value of money is real. if I could go back, and I thought I did a pretty good job, and now that I'm older, I'm like, I could have done an even better job. Invest now. If you're a young person, you're not married, but you think one day I might be married and might have kids, go open a 529 plan, put it in your own name, and take advantage of the tax-free investing and jam that thing full of money. I launched my 529 plans for my son and my daughter before they were born. I always assumed I would have at least two kids. I opened two 529 plans. I did it because I was lucky. I was lucky because I was working at a company called Vanguard who was trying to get in on that business. And they went out to
Right.
all the employees and they said, you're allowed to open 529 plans for free. So I
Yeah.
was lucky. Someone came and shoved it in my face and I didn't know any better and I took advantage of it. You're listening in. This stuff is easy now. Go open an investment account. ETFs have changed the world of investing. If you're doing the most basic thing in the world, you could, this is something I was doing when my daughter was babysitting. She could come home with a $50 paycheck and you could turn around and buy partial shares through Schwab for free. You can invest $50 and you can buy the S&P 500. Please tell me how putting that $50 in a piggy bank or anywhere else in the world is going to make you rich. It won't. So go invest, invest now, invest. All the education is in the world is there. If you don't know what to do, you can go to any of these firms. S&P 500, if you can put it away and just look at it a million years from now, you can put it away and put it. It's zero cost commission. You can buy ETFs, and that's how you get rich. Dollar cost averaging is how you get rich. When you don't think about the markets and you just put your money away is how you get rich. The other piece that I got taught by the same person, by the way, same person that pulled me aside and did the list, he pulled me aside to tell you how impactful having a good leader in your life can be at an early age. It was pretty early. I was pretty young, so probably around 30, maybe a little younger. And I went in for my year-end review, and he pulled me in. I'll pretend, he says, "Hey, Doug, um, how's everything going at home?" I said, "Oh, great. You guys are paying your bills?" "Yeah, we're paying our bills." He's like, "I know you want more money, but like you can afford to eat." "Oh yeah, we can afford to eat. Go out to you got get to go out to dinner every once in a while." "Oh yeah, yeah. I would always love more, but okay, but everything's good." "Yeah, good. Okay, I'm going to sit down with you. I'm going to give you your raise for the year and your bonus. You just told me you can afford your current salary. The smartest thing you could do is not give yourself the raise. Take the money that you just made and auto invest it. Take it right off the top as soon as it comes in. Okay, you want $50 more a paycheck, $100 more a paycheck, fine, take the 100, but don't take all of it and auto save. It was the biggest and greatest piece of advice. I still do that to this day. If I make more money the next year, I raise my savings amount. There were points in time where my wife was like, "Do we even make money? Like you seem like you have
Right.
a good job. I have a good
Yeah.
job." She was a teacher. We had two incomes. She's like, "I'm looking at our bank account. There's like nothing in there." Well, why? Because every paycheck would hit and I would pull as much as I could out and it's straight into investments. This is how you get rich in life. So though if I could give anyone anything, is it would be that. And then if you're not thinking about investments and you want something that, okay, what about for the rest of my life? Stop scrolling and start reading. Whatever challenge you need to do. Goodreads is great. It doesn't have to be a business book. Read fantasy, read anything. Reading changes your brain. We know this. The data's there, the study's there. Scrolling changes your brain in a negative way, reading changes it in a positive way. I am always reading a book. Always. I always have a book. I used to read lots of business books. Sometimes I swing back in. It doesn't matter. Like reading will make you smart. I promise you. It opens up doors for you. I cannot tell you how many times I've been on a train or an airplane or on a bus stop or a train stop, and I have my book in my hand, and someone comes up and says, "Oh, I read that." And they start having a dialogue. And what has come from those conversations? Everything from like the greatest recommendation for ramen in New York City ever. By the way, my daughter went there this week for the first time I sent her there. She's like, "It's fire." By the way, I think there were six R's in the fire when she sent it to
That's
me.
funny.
Text. All the way to business leads, business opportunities, people I've hired as a result of somebody seeing a book in my hand and then talking to me about that book. Again, it goes back to the beginning. Create luck. You can create luck for yourself by doing the right thing. Scrolling's not going to create luck for you, I promise.
Yeah, I couldn't agree with you more. Leaders are readers and absolutely read. So people are going to ask, what is that recommendation for that place?
Yeah.
No,
Yeah.
the
Oh,
recommendation.
oh,
Yeah.
you want it for your group.
Yeah, they're gonna ask.
The
Yeah.
play, it's gonna ruin it for the rest for that's fine if I see you there. It's a Puto. It's they have a couple locations in New York. They're a ramen, the best ramen in New York City. If you listen to this and you think there's something better, oh, by all means, I'm happy to change my mind. If I can find better ramen, I'll go. So send it to me.
Yeah.
You can hit me on LinkedIn. But the a Puto West Side is a little bit of a sneaky tip because a lot of people come into New York City and go to Broadway shows and then they jam up those touristy restaurants and you're like, they're fine, it's all good. It's really close to Broadway. It's like a little bit of a walk block and it's tucked away. And they have this really cool little bar set up and you can almost always get in there before a Broadway show. So there's your sneaky little tip. But it's a Puto. It's fantastic ramen. Spicy miso, best one.
Absolutely love it. Well, listen, Doug, this is absolutely fantastic. Congrats on all the success. Thank you for sharing all the fire with the million R's after it, or the 50 billion R's after it.
Yeah.
Hopefully we'll have you on again soon. This was really fantastic.
Thanks for having me. I appreciate it.